gotten a cornerback in the second round, said, we got this guy. Hope he's good.
You know what's interesting? Tampa has the same GM now that made that pick. What saved that guy's butt, 2 words, Tom Brady.
Yes. Tom Brady made everything look better down there in Tampa.
Tom Brady saved some people's jobs by going in there and being Tom Brady and, kind of huddling these guys together and saying, look, I know I'm like 57 years old, but I still know how to win. We got a bunch of really good receivers and a good offensive line. Just let me drop back and throw it everywhere. You guys handle everything else.
By the way,
we'll go be successful.
I'm going to go get a couple of my future Hall of Fame buddies out of retirement.
And that's what it was.
Yeah.
We're gonna the guy over there doing the keg stands, eating the metal is named Gronk. We're gonna bring him in.
Don't worry about practice. As long as he shows up on Sunday, we're good.
Look, we got this goober, Antonio Brown. I get you. I know. The guy's a wacko, but we put him on the field, he makes plays.
Until he does something where you just can't excuse it anymore, he's going to be good. Obviously, we know what happened.
When he taking off his clothes and walking
Yeah, he stripped in the middle of the game against the Jets, walked across the field, and said, I'm out. Bruce Arians like, yeah, he's not on the team anymore.
God.
And we know what he's done since then.
I know I shouldn't be laughing at another man's mental illness, but just Antonio Brown, wow. But yeah, I mean, so that was a pick. It was a terrible pick, but there were some goofball picks made by the current Tampa Bay GM who he was on the road to getting canned.
Oh, sure.
Brady was like the last idea, right? I'm going to pull something out of my lower extremities, and if this works, hopefully this saves my job.
Well, and again, all the factors were right to go to Tampa Bay, and the fact that it was a nice tropical paradise compared to the frigid tundra that is New England probably helped out a lot. So you're really glad you're located in Central Florida because that was very enticing to Tom Brady and all of his buddies to come down there and play. If you're located in, Minnesota, well, they play inside, but if you're located in one of these places that plays outside up north, he's not coming there.
Yeah, and Jason Light, he was blank. It was Jason Light's the GM. And yeah, he had some picks that had people scratching their heads and the things that were going on there.
Was he there for Josh Freeman? Did he pick him?
I don't think he picked Josh Freeman.
Because we talked about that yesterday.
That's a fireable offense in itself.
I watched Josh Freeman play the Falcons when he was with Tampa.
Oh.
That's one of those I saw him play, and everybody's like, oh, I forgot about that guy.
Josh Freeman had that one good year, and everybody went, ooh, wow. And then he became Josh Freeman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the NFL draft is so kooky, and I would love to just somebody get up one time and do that and just say, you know what? We didn't get one guy we wanted. We ended up with these dudes. Hopefully it works out. I don't know. We'll see. Thank God I just rent my house and I didn't buy it because I'm probably going to get fired. Just one time,
just once.
You've had a rough draft, right? And you go straight to the hotel bar, and you've had a few, and you just go and just blather into the media.
Because I think a lot of fans can look at a draft result and say, I don't know about that one. Mm-hmm. And again, those guys obviously know the ins and outs themselves. Like, man, we really didn't do too great with this.
You know what's so interesting about it is because, again, I'm a draft dork. I love this stuff. And, I can't read as much as I used to, but I used to love to read everything about the capsules of guys and drafting and philosophy and all this other stuff. And I was lucky to spend a lot of time in Baltimore watching an organization that knows how to draft.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot by just listening to what they know. They're not perfect. Nobody is. But just the idea of how they did it and their philosophies worked, right? So I was lucky to watch it, and I love the draft. But it's unbelievable how people who have 10 times more information than a goober like me can screw it up so bad. It's mind-numbing because you're like, wow, you guys know so much and you still can't do it.
I've seen, and there's so many good YouTube videos. These guys are dorks about this stuff that have gone back and broken down Johnny Manziel's college tape and this guy shouldn't have been anywhere near the first round. And it's insane. And I get it. Hindsight's always 20/20, but how did they never pick up on that? How did the Dallas Cowboys almost draft him? And obviously Cleveland ended up taking him in the first round. Anyway, did they not know that this guy was just going out there winging it and being the best athlete on the field? That does not translate to the NFL.
No. And you pick, I'm glad you picked Manziel because this is the great dictionary definition of whenever professional sports loves to, especially the GMs and the coaches, love to make it like they are so much smarter than the rest of us. They started Mensa.
Sure.
They are these incredibly high intellect human beings, and how dare you question them because they are so much smarter than you that you have no clue, right?
Right.
And look, that's not the case in a lot of instances, but it's just the idea that Manziel's the greatest example. Here's a guy, first of all, size-wise, doesn't fit the bill as an NFL quarterback. Arm-wise,
Like
doesn't have the
6
arm
foot,
strength.
in high heels or something.
Yeah, when we wore high heels, that's another story for another day.
Wild times in College Station.
You get a little sideways when too many stops at the old bar after class or during class. So Manziel's not the right size. Like he went to class. Not a great arm. An okay arm, not a great arm.
He also had a first-round pick catching the ball for him, and
yes.
Mike Evans, that helped.
And the idea, too, Manziel, if you did any research on him off the field, you're going to find out he's a disaster.
Yeah.
Doesn't study film, can't spell the word film, and all the red flags on Johnny Manziel. And not only, and we'll get to the Cleveland part of this in a second, but if it were up to Jerry Jones, the card would have went up. Johnny Manziel, and instead you drafted a Hall of Fame offensive lineman because your son grabbed the card out of your hand basically and said, Dad, we're not doing that.
They had to lock Jerry in the bathroom during the selection. He came out. Who do we pick?
Ready? Let me out. I want Johnny.
So Zach Martin, isn't that the kid from the Disney Channel? And Hall of Fame offensive lineman who just retired.
I love that show with Cody when they're doing the Sweet Life. I love that show. So yeah, and then you have you've heard the story, the truck stop Jimmy story in Cleveland, right?
Which one?
About drafting Manziel. That he was walking and a homeless man looked up at him and said, "Draft Johnny." And so they drafted Johnny Manziel.
Would that surprise you at all?
No, not at all.
Given his track record?
Yeah, because everybody thinks, okay, that's just him embellishing a story. Not me. I have a feeling someone, and it might not have been a homeless man, it might have been some random human being saying, "Man, that Johnny Manziel looks good. You should draft him."
I bet he still didn't give that guy $1.
No.
Thanks for the tip.
$1 from
Thanks
him,
for the tip. And, called the cops and said that we got a guy loitering on our property.
Knowing what's going on with the Flying J, he probably stole money from the homeless guy. But, yeah, this is the thing about it that fascinates me. With all the information these teams get and all the scouts and all the supposedly massively smart human beings that these teams have, they still make these horrific mistakes.
Yeah.
That a regular schmo like us are sitting around looking at our dorky draft guide going, "I never draft that guy."
And I think just about every organization is guilty of this. We brought up the Anthony Richardson thing a lot, where I think a lot of organizations look and say, yeah, but when we get him, when our coaches get our hands on, when he gets in our system, we're going to turn him into a superstar. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you're taking a very big risk with unproven guys, and more often than not, those guys don't end up panning out.
The mistakes are usually made to what you just said. It's called ego. It's ego, or you're drafting with your heart, not your head.
Yes.
Ego, and Chris Ballard is a really good GM in Indy. He's just messed up the most important position in sports ever since they lost Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
They can't get it right. Everything else, Chris Ballard does pretty well, but it's going to end up getting him fired, most likely before it's all said and done. It's just the idea. You see Anthony Richardson's athleticism, just like you said. You watch those 5 plays on tape where he looks like Superman, right?
That's the total amount of plays he played in college.
Exactly. Or the 5 completions, right?
Yeah, the 5 completions.
And you go, wow. We get that guy in our system with our coaches and our culture. Those 5 plays, he's going to make 50 of those every game.
Do you think there's any organization that just look up the highlights on YouTube? Which we talk about, like, you don't put your drops, you don't put your overthrows, you don't put your interceptions on your highlight tape. Hey, here's your 5-minute Anthony Richardson couple. This guy's unbelievable. It's like, but if you watch the tape, then you're like, there's some flaws in there.
I really believe that's how Anthony Richardson got drafted. That Chris Ballard and the scouts in Indy only watched his Sports Center highlights.
Yeah.
They didn't watch the Richardson drops back to throw. He lets it fly. It's in the parking lot. It took out a beer vendor. It's like, no, you don't, because like you said, that's why I always take these YouTube cut-ups of players with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Because no high school basketball prospects going, "Hey, Mom and Dad, don't forget to put my 30 missed shots on my reel, please."
Yeah, when I went 0 for 12 against South Central the other day, put that on there.
And don't forget my turnovers, please, Mom. No, so I always take that stuff with a grain of salt, but I could totally see someone watching highlights of Anthony Richardson and going, "Man, we get him in our building."
Jim Irsay sitting there doing some things that we probably can't talk about on the radio. This guy's unbelievable. Draft him.
We need to draft that guy.
Oh, Jimmy, I don't care. Draft him.
I'll be back. Where are you going, Jimmy? I got a buddy to meet.
It's snowing.
Jimmy, you're driving 4 miles an hour on the interstate. So, yeah, that's what's so mesmerizing about this thing to me, why I like it. I love it. And I know there are people who look at me like, seriously, dude, you watch this? What the hell's wrong with you? I do. I find it a fascinating study.
Sure.
In so many different things from the neck up. So it seems like Cam Ward will be the guy. Seems like Nick Emmanwori will go in the first round. Emmanwori, we'll talk about some of the different teams where he could end up before it's all said and done. So we'll get into that. Also, it's in Green Bay. We got to talk about that before it's all said and done today. A town smaller than Columbia, South Carolina is going to have the NFL draft.
I think a lot of national media is figuring that out for the first time as they are spending time there now.
You mean where they're staying in a hotel in Michigan?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
A greenie asked for an almond latte at a diner, and I think they laughed at him.
I'm not going to say it. I got to stop myself. Okay. All right. We'll get back here from Nick Emmanwori, who was on with Jay and Elijah on the postgame show yesterday. Get some thoughts from Nick about his combine and this whole draft process. That's next on the halftime show. David Ayres punching the buttons. Tyler Head, Terry Ford till 3 on the game. halftime show. Talking NFL draft. Nicky Manwari specifically, you should go in the first round today or tonight. The Carolina safety, I've seen him as high as 13 to Miami. I've seen him as low as to Buffalo in the bottom of the first round. But somewhere between that 13 and 30 sweet spot, because, again, Miami, they'll be shopping for a safety in this draft. Buffalo will be shopping for a safety. Baltimore, Minnesota, not saying that's what they're going to go for in the first round, but those teams will be looking in this draft to get safety help. And the one thing that, again, learning about the draft from being such a goober about it, is everybody starts to talk about need all the time. You don't draft for need. I know it's weird. You have to get players that you need at positions in a draft. But when you're on the clock, you draft by value. Because every one of these teams, if you don't pay attention to this, they all have a draft board. They all rank these players. And basically, when you draft, what you should do is look at the top of your board, not at the need, but the top of your board. And let's say, for an example, if we'll take Miami. Miami's on the clock. And let's say Nicky Manwari is the second highest rated player on their board at that time. There's a guy ranked ahead of him. But let's say they're close. Let's say the ranking is close.
Sure.
And let's say that guy, just for fun, is Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
Now, the Dolphins have Tua.
Mm-hmm.
They've given Tua a boatload of money. They're not taking Shedeur Sanders. No. So when people say we always take the highest rated guy on our board, that's kind of like not totally true.
Sure.
So let's say the second highest rated guy on the board for them is Nicky Manwari. They're going to take Nicky Manwari, not Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
So it's not always the highest rated guy on your board. But if, let's say, you have two guys on the board who are rated about the same, but one's a position of need and the other isn't, then you go take the position of need. But if you start reaching down your draft board, like for an offensive lineman, because you need an offensive lineman, even though the highest grade you have on an offensive lineman, let's say second round, but you in the first round draft an offensive lineman because you need it, you screwed up.
Yes.
Because you went and overdrafted for a guy who is not a first-round pick by grade, and now you've kind of thrown yourself off because you drafted for need.
And that's where teams get themselves in trouble because they'll have this fear of, oh, he's not going to be available, or we don't think we're going to be able to get so-and-so at, our next round pick or whatever it may be. So that's why you see a lot of guys be like, how did he end up going 10 picks more higher than we thought he would? Because, this team really needs that. I thought it wouldn't be available, and they don't have the opportunity to trade up or trade down or whatever it may be. So there's guaranteed to be at least one or two guys in tonight's first round. They're like, how did he sneak in the first round? Because that team was like, well, if we don't get him now, then we may not get him by the time we come back around to our pick.
And that's where, again, teams make huge mistakes. And also, sometimes to that point, you can sit there in the draft and look at your board, and let's say your board has, and we'll take safety again, you've got 3 safeties in the top 6 or 7 on your board. You're pretty sure that when you draft again in the second round or whatever the next round is, one of those safeties will be available. You like them about the same.
Sure.
So now let's say you have a guy who's rated higher than those safeties on the board, and you really like him. He might not be a position of need, but he's just too good to pass up. You take that guy because he's a really good football player, and you'll figure it out, and then you'll still get your safety in the next round because you figure they're going to be on the board. That's the chess match of drafting.
It is.
So sometimes you might pass on a guy that you would, should we take him here? No, because we got 3 guys we like as much as him, and we can get one of those guys in the next round. Let's take that other dude we have high right here because now we're getting 2 football players we like instead of just getting one and then coming around to the next round. And that guy that we really liked definitely won't be there.
Right.
It is. It's such a, that's why I find it fascinating because there is a method to this madness. And drafting for need gets you killed.
Sure.
Drafting value / then need is the way the smart teams do it.
Yeah, well, and more often than not, what you're taking in the first round is a guy that's likely going to be a starter for you this upcoming season. And again, it can be different sometimes, especially with quarterbacks. If you do have the opportunity to let somebody sit, if you're getting him at the back half of the first round or something like that, that's a little different. But, again, Nicky Manwari is likely being drafted by older teams, getting him as a guy that's going to go and be a starter for them this year on the back end of their defense. So, again, you need somebody that's going to be able to have an immediate impact for you right away.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, like, we were talking about Miami needs safety help. The Ravens would love to get a guy to go with Kyle Hamilton, who is arguably the best safety in football. The Bills need safety help badly.
Yep.
And Minnesota, Harrison Smith has been a phenomenal player, but I think he's turning 60 this year. And I think they lost another safety, Bynum in free agency. So Minnesota is going to look for it. So when you get to that part in the round where Minnesota's picking and Baltimore and Buffalo, Nick Emmanwori is going to be high on everybody's board at that point. I've seen him where he's been ranked on big boards, somewhere between 15 and 25.
Right.
So the value of Nick Emmanwori makes sense when you get to the Ravens and the Bills and, the Vikings. I mean, Miami at 13 might be a little high, but you don't go like this. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So from Miami down to Buffalo, he's going to go somewhere in there is what I figure.
Yeah, no, definitely so. And again, what we expected him to be a first rounder anyway, but solidified that with what he did at the combine a couple weeks ago. And again, maybe the most athletic guy in the entire draft, or one of them at least. So yeah, he's not going to have to wait long to hear his name called. And obviously tomorrow we'll be able to kind of assess where he's going, kind of fit he's going to be, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a dream come true for him. That's for sure.
All right, Dave, to the sound, my friend. We're going to get to cut one here with Nick talking about discussing things with teams in the draft process. Again, let's get cut one. Nick Emmanwori on the post-game show yesterday with Jay and Elijah talking about the whole draft process and dealing with these NFL teams.
Yeah, I learned a lot about myself going through this process, just how people view me, what feedback I'm getting from teams and stuff. But every team I've talked to the majority of the teams. I've talked to almost every NFL team, but the visits I took went to the Panthers, Falcons, Saints, Seahawks, Bengals, Dolphins, Pittsburgh. So I've been to a couple teams, and they all see me, in a real good light. Think I'm a great player, have the potential to be all-pro player, a great NFL player. So they're super excited to get me. Whatever team gets the chance to have me on their squad.
So there's Nick, talking about, and again, he's talked to a bunch of teams. There are teams that are going to talk to him who would take him in the first round if he's there. But also, for an example, he said New Orleans, right?
Yes.
New Orleans is sitting at 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not taking Nick Emmanwori with the 9th pick.
No.
But let's say New Orleans, sitting in the 9 hole, gets an offer that they can't refuse to trade down. Let's say someone's come and get Shedeur Sanders, just for giggles.
Sure.
Let's say New Orleans isn't looking at Sanders at 9, but there are teams who think Sanders at 9 is a good play for them and they want to trade up and get the quarterback. So let's say New Orleans trades down later in the first round. Now who's in play?
Nick
Emmanwori. So that's why you bring in Emmanwori. And that might tell you a little something about New Orleans' draft strategy right here. If you're talking to a guy that's looked at between 13 and 30 and you're bringing him in for a meeting, that might say you're open to trading down, because why would you talk to Nick Emmanwori? Because you're not going to take him at 9.
Sure.
Right? So maybe New Orleans is open to someone coming up at 9 and taking that pick because they have specifically targeted a player that they know is not going to make it to them and wherever they're at in the draft.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just saying. So we'll see. That's the kind of fun part of this draft. So I get all dorky just talking about it.
I can tell.
I love this mess. I do. I was talking to a guy at the gym yesterday. He walks out. He goes, "You ready for the NFL draft?" I go, "Man, I love this stuff." And he looked at me. He goes, "Me too." And he goes, "Do you like other drafts?" I go, "I'm not going to lie to you, pal. One day I was flipping around the TV. The NHL draft was on. I sat and watched a half hour of the NHL draft. I didn't know anybody because they were like later in the first round where they're picking kids from some Ontario junior team or from Saskatoon High School. I don't know who the hell anybody is, but you know what? I'm just digging the draft."
You're telling me you don't watch Canadian junior hockey?
Well, not like I used to. But yes, I'm watching the NHL draft. I have zero clue. I just like drafts. I think the building of a team is interesting.
Sure.
I just do. Like fantasy sports now, like fantasy football and baseball.
Yeah.
I do this now. It's like I used to really love being in leagues. Now what I want to draft the team and hand it off to a buddy and say, "Now you do the rest of the year."
You coach it.
I can't do it. Just in case you just woke up, did you know the NFL draft is in Green Bay? Let's talk about that next here on the Halftime Show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. Halftime show. Time to talk about maybe what you missed if you just woke up and missed out on what's going on. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. The NFL draft is tonight. It's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And if you've never been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, Green Bay is a tiny little town. If you look at by population base, it's smaller than Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina, if you look at TV, radio markets, the top 100 market, which is like a medium market, a medium-sized city, is Columbia. Green Bay is a teeny city. It's a small city. And it's what's cute about it and cool is it actually is the place of an NFL franchise.
Yeah, it's the last surviving organization of the originals, where you had, Decatur, Ohio, and Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Canton and places like that. These little small towns that otherwise had nothing, but they had, football teams back in the early days in the NFL. And then as the league grew and stuff like that, Chicago and Detroit and all these other places popped up. So, yeah, Green Bay. And there's a reason. They will never tear down Lambeau Field.
No.
There would be riots in the streets of Green Bay if they ever try to do that. It's a true throwback to the origins of the league, and it's neat that it's still standing. They still have those traditions. And, again, the Lambeau Field's next to somebody's grandma in that neighborhood right there or whatever.
It's ridiculous.
And, it's interesting. I'm interested to see the setup and how everything goes with the draft tonight because typically what they've done, like when they were in Nashville, they just took over Broadway. They had a stage in the middle of Broadway, and they shut down the street, and everybody's just hanging out there. Like, you're going to be in the stadium this time. So I'm interested to see how this all goes with it being inside Lambeau.
Because the city, it's almost like going to Pleasantville. Like the movie Pleasantville, there's this restaurant across the street, Crawls, everybody goes to. That's where people scalp tickets. You can park in people's yards. I've told the stories. You get out of the car. Hey, you're in a hurry. We're making some brats. We got beers. You want something to eat? Some of them won't charge you to park there. I got a buddy of mine once. He came back to the car after when the Ravens played the Packers. And the guy's like, hey, we're still cooking out. You're more than welcome to hang out. And then the guy and my buddy would spend the night on the guy's couch.
Yeah.
Never met the dude ever.
They are quintessential Midwestern nice.
They're the nicest people. And it's just, if you have a bucket list of going somewhere to watch a sporting event, go to Green Bay, go to Lambeau Field, see a Packer game. It's unbelievable. So they will have the draft.
This in January. You should have had it in January. Would it be like cold?
Oh, how funny would that be?
Or it's the middle of just a blizzard.
It'd be so good. How many people get frostbite at the draft? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you think you know cold, Green Bay cold is a different kind of cold, man.
Well, and you're sitting next to the shirtless guy. Sir, aren't you cold? It's 30 degrees. I'm burning up.
Well, you know why? He's had some lubrication.
Yeah. He's a few drinks in.
Absolutely. So it's really cool. It's in Green Bay tonight. Of course, Green Bay doesn't have a lot of hotels.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm interested in the logistics. And I'm sure somebody will do a breakdown on ESPN after it's all done of, hey, here's how we pulled this off. Or, I don't know, what's the nearest big city to Green Bay? Are they staying there?
Milwaukee's a couple hours. Milwaukee, a couple hours south. Probably is Milwaukee. But I tell you, it's cold in Milwaukee because Wisconsin is cold.
Sure.
But in Green Bay, they go, hey, Milwaukee. Yeah, I usually go there and wear my shorts. I mean, Milwaukee people go, my God, Green Bay's cold.
That's funny.
So, yeah. So, in Green Bay tonight and the next 3 days for the NFL draft. Last night in the NBA playoffs, so Golden State won Game 1 in Houston. And they just get Game 2 cooking. The Rockets have an early lead. And then this happened to Golden State. Play it, Dave.
Podziemski back on the floor. Let's keep an eye on him. That one, oh, look out. Wow, Butler goes down hard. Thompson comes underneath Butler. He was bumped as well, and Jimmy Butler's legs went right out from under him. Straight contact on the floor.
There you go, Dave. Thank you, sir. You can pop it down now. Jimmy Butler got hurt last night and got undercut. If you've ever played any basketball, I mean, obviously getting hit in the face sucks, but one of the worst things that can happen to you is get undercut when you're, like, in the air.
Yeah, he's like 6 feet in the air and landed right on, like, his hip.
Yeah, and so Butler was hurt. They did an MRI. I think they're doing an MRI today. Butler didn't play anymore in the game, and that's game, set, match.
Yeah.
Golden State's done. If Golden State doesn't have Jimmy Butler, they lose this series.
Yeah.
Let's just be no offense to Steph Curry. I love Steph Curry. But without Jimmy Butler, Golden State's done. So we'll see what happens there. Houston won the game last night, 109-94. But the big story is can Jimmy Butler come back? Look, Jalen Green was really good for Houston, scoring 36, threw out I think he had like 6 assists in the game as well. Rockets have some nice young talent, but I really believe Golden State with the fact that they've played in about 500 million playoff games.
Sure.
And they were a different team since they got Butler. I figured Golden State could win the series, but if there's no Jimmy Butler, the Rockets win.
Yep.
I just don't see Golden State getting past. The Celtics won last night, beating the Magic to go 2-0. And the Magic are doing something that is so sports 101. They're sitting around going, we're nowhere near as good as these guys. You know what we're going to do? We're going to start smacking them around and try to get their mind out of playing against us and get their mind off their game, and hopefully they'll get caught up in fighting with us, and we can beat them.
Smart.
It is. And look, you don't want to get guys hurt, but game 1, Jason Tatum got knocked around, and he was out and missed game 2. There was some more scuffling in game 2. And again, if you're the Magic, I get it. If I can get you mad enough,
Yeah.
you'll get off your game, and I'll have a chance.
Porzingis was bleeding like a stuck pig last night.
And look, the funny thing, Porzingis was like, he was like yoking up after the game about stuff.
Yeah.
And when you think about dudes that, no matter how tall they are, probably wouldn't put the fear of God in you,
Sure. It's probably one of them.
if he squared up on you, would be kits off Porzingis. But even Porzingis say, look, we're not going to fall for this nonsense.
Sure.
We're going to fight back. But that's what, if you're Orlando, that's what you want.
Yeah, of course. You know you don't stand a chance. Otherwise, you got in through the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
Like, again, throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
It's like fight. I want you to say we're going to fight back. Yeah, I want you to use the word fight a lot,
Yeah.
right? Because what word aren't you using here?
Yeah, play.
Exactly.
Yeah, score.
Exactly. We're not talking about basketball. We're talking about fighting. That's exactly what Orlando wants. Is it going to matter? No. The Celtics are going to win the series easy. Cavaliers, the Heat made it interesting for a bit. Cavaliers found a way at home to pull away, win game 2. I got to look at the stat. Cleveland they hit 22 threes, which is like, I think it's their franchise record for threes in a playoff game. And, I mean, Cleveland's just better than Miami. I mean, no offense, they just are. Tell you, the development of Tyler Hero is more of a go-to guy, has been a storyline for Miami, and Hero was phenomenal last night, knocking down 33 points, only took 24 shots to get there, also had 5 assists and 6 rebounds. Look, they need another high-level player. I mean, Bam Adebayo is nice, but nobody thinks of Bam Adebayo as a level 1 superstar. They need another dude that can get buckets to go with Hero and Bam, and then Miami can be back in the conversation. Miami's just not anywhere near as good as Cleveland. So that series will be over shortly, Tyler, as well. And, of course, tonight, I mean, there's the the NFL draft, but people who aren't into that will watch some hoop. Pistons and Knicks in Detroit. The fact the Pistons got the split is impressive to me, but I still think the Knicks win the series. Can the Grizzlies lose by less than 10?
Well, they did better last time. I think it was 19 last time. So, again, you're only losing about 35 through 2 games. So, yeah, if you can get it under 15, we'll consider that a win.
Yeah, give them a half a win. The Thunder crushed them by 51 in game 1. I was thinking, what's the worst game I've ever lost at in my life?
Oh, man.
I mean, I've taken some whoopings through the day playing sports on a very low level, obviously. But, man.
When we went to state, my sophomore year wrestling, we lost to the eventual state champions, Camden County. Oh, I listened to this up recently. I think it was 72-6. Mm-hmm. We had one guy on our team get a pin. That's where the 6 points came from. But yeah, they mopped the floor with us. I think that was the worst loss. And again, they won the championship.
Right.
A couple days later. So that was probably mine.
I tell you, I love football. I played football up until high school because our high school football team was so god-awful. And I weighed 152 pounds. And again, back then...
You're a star player.
Can you play nose guard? And I was such a little punk. I was like, I don't want to go out here at 152 pounds and get beat 50-0 every Friday night.
Sure.
So I didn't play. Looking back now, because I loved playing. I wish I would have still played. And now looking back. But back then, I'm like... I get the heck beat out of me every Friday by 50. And one of my good buddies was the quarterback. And you think Joe Burrow, too, takes a beating? My buddy wishes he had Joe Burrow's offensive line. I think my buddy got sacked 20 times a game. We were terrible.
One of those schools where you become less popular by being on the football team.
Yes. They're begging for tryouts over the loudspeaker. We still need football players. Does anybody know what color a football is? If you do, please come out to the field for practice.
They had a cheerleader playing at edge.
We were terrible. Again, I wish I would have played, but we were so bad. We averaged 1 win a year.
Okay.
1 win a year. All right, Firehouse Sub Text the hour, 803-404-6100. It's a halftime show. David Ayer punching the buttons. Tyler Head, Terry Ford till 3 on the game. 803-404-6100, Firehouse Up Text the Hour on the halftime show. We talk about a ton of stuff. Nicky Manwari, the NFL draft. We didn't get to, and we're going to get to a sad story we didn't get to, and what just in case you just woke up, Steve McMichael passing away, which is sad. We'll get to that. The wrestling dude.
Yeah. Oh man, that dude lived
Mondo?
a life. He was part of the Four Horsemen.
Yep. Heck of an NFL
WCW
player.
United States champion.
Yep.
What a life.
Oh, yeah. So we'll get to that later. It's a sad story, but, also you celebrate the life of a guy who enjoyed life.
No, I don't think anybody enjoyed life more than him.
Steve McMichael enjoyed life. You got a great cut we're going to use later with him at Wrigley Field. It's really cool. But what we got on the Firehouse subtext line?
Yeah, so Chris says, how about in 2020 pick the wrong Byron Young, the Bama one? They were supposed to get the one from Tennessee.
Yes.
And the Bama one, I think, got cut before the next season.
Yes.
And, of course, Tennessee one's playing with the Rams now.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you, Texter. Thank you. By the way, the Raiders, especially under Gruden, I mean, they were the kings of reaching.
Right.
Just the decisions the Gruden Raiders made in the draft were horrific. Horrific.
I'm trying to find it. There was also, this was back in the early days of the NFL, or I think it was like maybe in the 50s or 60s, a team drafted a guy that had died the year before.
Yes.
And I can't remember which team it was.
Oh, God.
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, I remember that. I just Googled it really quick. Yes. It has happened, but sometimes they do it to honor someone.
Sure, but
this one wasn't done for honoring them.
Selected somebody they thought, oh, hey, he's going to help us out. And like, oh, no, that guy actually passed away last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. So, yeah, dig it up.
It was a long time ago.
It's a great story.
I'll try and find it.
It's a great story. But, yeah, the draft, I remember the Raiders. Oh, wrong guy. Hey, we drafted a dude who's a construction worker. Wait, what did we just do? It is. It's so bad. Yeah, thank you. Excellent text. I do want to get to the Steve McMichael thing, though, real quick. Steve McMichael, I mean, if you kind of pay attention to sports in general, you knew McMichael, his health wasn't good. He was put in hospice, in the last couple of days, I believe it was.
And again, he's been dealing with ALS for, God, forever.
I'm going to tell you, man, the more you see ALS, remember when the Ice Bucket Challenge?
Mm-hmm, yep.
I think a lot of people truly got just how awful this disease is, because it's terrible, man. It slowly kills you from the inside.
Yeah.
It's just awful. And so McMichael was suffering from that, and he got in the Hall of Fame.
Last year.
Yeah. And people say, yeah, they just did that because of his, yeah, okay, fine. Who cares? Gotta be honest. Who cares?
Sure.
Who cares? He was a really, really good player in Chicago, part of those Bears defenses of the 80s. And, they won the Super Bowl. There are great stories about him off the field we can't repeat here on the air because it would get us fined and fired.
Yep.
And then McMichael went on to your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Into the wrestling world.
And, man, he loved it. And, again, there have been plenty of former athletes and celebrities involved in it. Like, he embraced it. He was all about it.
Yeah, and my man lived life, did Steve McMichael. And here's a cut. I believe, Dave, it is, which cut is it here?
15.
There it is, cut 15.
Type over here.
Yeah, cut 15, Dave. Steve McMichael, he called out look, if you watch baseball, Angel Hernandez might be the worst umpire in the history of the game.
Might be.
He is.
Yeah.
Here's Steve McMichael doing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, but before he does Take Me Out to the Ball Game at Wrigley Field, he calls out umpire Angel Hernandez. Cut 15, Dave, hit it.
On goes home, Chicago! And don't worry, I'll have some speaks with that home plate umpire after the game. Ooh, a one, a two, a three. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and breakfast jack. 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
How many beers you think Steve McMichael had before he got up there?
Yes. I think didn't he get thrown out after that too? Because I think Angel Hernandez. Because if you watch the video, like Hernandez is bewildered at somebody calling him out, which I guess he shouldn't be shocked. But I think he got McMichael thrown out after that.
Well, because if you just look at how big Stephen McMichael is,
Sure.
and if you're Angel Hernandez and this big
don't
drunk
want any of
guy's
that.
calling you out, yeah, you don't want any of that heat. So the sound you heard in the background before Stephen Michael was singing was Angel Hernandez soiling himself.
Yes, basically.
And so yeah, it's just a little taste of Steve McMichael. He was a wild, fun-loving dude, and excellent defensive tackle. Had his fun wrestling. How funny is it? He was part of the Four Horsemen.
I know. What a life.
I know. So Steve McMichael passing away at the age of 67. All right, football, and even more football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford. We'll talk some more draft, and Nick Eamon. More thoughts from Nick about the draft coming up next on the Halftime Show. What we got going on here is football, and more football in the 1 o'clock hour, like always, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. David Ayer, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. Obviously, NFL draft tonight. Nick Eamon-Wari, we feel like, if you look, there's only one mock draft I've seen that does not have Eamon-Wari in the first round.
Okay.
That's Peter Schrager from ESPN. The other 17,000 mock drafts I've looked at has Eamon-Wari in the first round. So it looks like Nick Eamon-Wari, barring some kind of weird tumbling of players or a run on a position, Nick Eamon-Wari should go somewhere between 13 and 30 in this draft, feels like. Nick was on the postgame show with Jay and Elijah yesterday, and, obviously a lot was made that the number one combine testing freak this year was far and away Nick Eamon-Wari. He was one of the best combines ever by a player. Here's Eamon-Wari talking about, let's get cut 3, Dave, testing well at the combine.
Yeah, man, for sure. Going into the draft, going into the combine, pre-combine, I was already seeing my name. Maybe I was hearing late first round, early second, seeing a couple mocks. I don't really pay attention to the mocks, but I seen 1 or 2 mocks where my name was last or last 5 picks. So going into the combine, I was expecting to just handle business there, honestly. Going into it, I was real confident, real sure in my ability. Going into it, I knew exactly what was going to happen as far as testing-wise. So I was probably the most confident dude in the building. I remember I was doing my formal visits at the combine, formal visits with the teams and stuff, going in their draft meeting rooms or whatever. But I was telling the coaches, yeah, I'm finna, jump this. I'm finna broad this right here. And I'm finna run this 40. And they were all surprised, there's no way you do that, man. But so I had something out. I had a plan for the combine, and I think I executed it well. My name shot up to the draft. My name skyrocketed on a lot of teams' draft boards after that. And then plus when you're watching my film, it's just a great thing to see. So.
Yeah, I think it's cool that he had a plan, and obviously the plan worked very well because Nick crushed the combine. And when you're sitting there, look, when you're a guy that's trying to improve your draft stock, it's not so strategic, right?
Sure.
I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna run the 40. I'm gonna bench press. I'm gonna do all the positional, drills. I'm going to sit and talk with everybody. You're not picking and choosing what you want to do to make you look you're going to do everything to show people, look, watch this.
Yeah, and of course, like Nick said, he knew he was going to be really good at everything.
Yeah. My man tore up the 40. I think he bench pressed a tractor 70 times. His vertical leap, he hit his head on the roof in Indy.
And again, you could tell by looking at him when he was here, this dude is a bit of a physical freak. And I don't know if we expected him to be one of the greatest combines of all time, but we certainly expected him to go out there and do well. And again, he knocked it out of the park.
Bruce Feldman's had him on the freak list, but watching that.
Yeah.
And we knew, look, we sat here and said, wait till Nick gets to the combine. Remember, we had this conversation.
Because that was going to secure him as a first-round pick.
But no one sat here and went, this dude's going to have one of the greatest combines in the history of combines. And Nick said something that, yes, please, thank you. Film, tape, watching someone actually play the game of football in pads.
And he is the perfect balance of the two, right? Because we talked about the Anthony Richardsons, guys like that didn't have the college tape, but man, they go out there and they can kill it in the combine and look like the specimen that you want to play at your respective positions. Nick Eamon-Wari has a balance of good tape and just being amazing from the physical aspect as well.
And again, that's why I want to see him go to the right team. Because, look, Nick obviously can play the run. Nick's very fast. He's very violent when he gets the opportunity to be violent when he hits you. And in pass coverage, it seemed like he was better when he got a chance to, read the field, maybe play zone. And his weakness was you don't want to man him up on a slot receiver or a running back or whatever. That wasn't his strength. Remember, we saw that 2 years ago. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
So you want him to go to a team that says, okay, here are all the great things Nick does. And here are the things right now that aren't his strengths. Hopefully, he'll get better at it, but let's not put him in a bad position.
And that's the benefit of being a later first-round pick is obviously you're going to an organization that's not quite as much of a mess where, God help Travis Hunter. He's a great athlete, great player, but he's likely going to go to the Browns, and the Browns are a mess. I don't expect him to see the playoffs anytime soon. But if Nicky Emmanwori, let's say he went to Baltimore or something like that, a team that is in the need of safety in the draft here, he'd suddenly be on a contender in the AFC, potentially be in the Super Bowl in the next couple of years.
Because, and to your point of Kyle Hamilton, that's a great fit because Kyle Hamilton does the things well that Nick that aren't his wheelhouse.
Yeah, they'd complement each
it
other.
would be a good compliment. And plus, could you see those two big dudes playing safety together?
I would hate to go up against it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, because Kyle Hamilton to me is one of the, if not the best, one of the three best safeties in football. Then you add this 6'4", 225-pound safety with him. But that's the thing, and you said it perfect, because you want to see this guy succeed. And yeah, getting picked earlier in the first round means you get more dough. I get it.
They're paying you more to go to a bad team.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually.
They're like, look, you're going to go to a team that's a bleep show. Here's a little extra money for you. You're going to need it, dude. You're really playing for your second contract.
Yeah.
And if you get picked later in the first round, you go to a good organization that's perennially sniffing around the playoffs or in the playoffs, and they know what they're doing, you've got a better chance to be put in a position to succeed to get that second contract either from them or from somebody else.
Sure.
That's why also you want to land with a good organization. Plus, guess what? It's a lot more fun to win. Last time I checked.
Goes without saying.
Ask the Memphis Grizzlies what it's like not to win.
And you also have to think about this, and the Browns and the Titans and stuff like that, organizations that may be churning through head coaches in the next couple of years. There's no guarantee if they fire a coach that even if you're our first round talent, he's going to be able to use you in the same way or like what you bring to the table compared to the coach that brought you in and drafted you. So if you go to a Ravens and Harbaugh's not going to be retiring anytime soon, you've got a consistent coach going forward and a system that you're going to be able to work in.
And massive stability. You have stability in Buffalo. Minnesota seems like they're stable with the coach in the front office, and that's where you want to go, a place with stability. So, yeah, you might get drafted later. Look, everybody wants to get picked real high and all that stuff, but the teams that are picking real high typically stink, and there's a reason why they're picking real high. So if you're Nick and you land somewhere, in the bottom of the first round to a really good football team with a really good culture and stability and guys who will know how to use you to your strengths, guess what? That's a home run, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what I think about getting drafted by the Dolphins. The Dolphins have made the playoffs a couple times recently. McDaniel, I feel like, is a better than average head coach. The key to that team, obviously, is the health of Tua. When Tua is healthy, they're a playoff caliber team. Here's the problem. Keeping Tua healthy.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and God, who they have? Skylar Thompson and who else at quarterback last year? Like, without Tua, that team is nothing.
You know who the backup is this year? Zach Wilson.
That's right. Yeah, that gets a whole lot better. And he's wearing 0, which I think is very fitting.
I know.
But, yeah.
You think he picked 0? They gave him 0.
Like, listen, kid, this is what you're getting. But I like wearing number 2. You're getting 0. You're going to like it. Right. But yeah, they're a bit of a tricky situation because if Tua's not out there and he's not healthy, and God, he's gotten 20 concussions to this point in time, so he's obviously more prone to them at this point. He goes out again, and then you're suddenly one of the worst teams in the AFC.
So we'll see where Nick lands. It's going to be interesting. Well, let's get one other cut from Nick real quick. I think one more for right now.
Yeah, man, for sure.
All right, let's go to cut 5, Dave, about his development at South Carolina, because Nick came in a high 3-star. He was not a 4-star kid. He was a high 3-star. Some people thought he was a little undervalued coming out of high school. But then I remember once he got here, there was nothing but talk about, hey, this dude from Irmo, this big kid from Irmo, and of course nobody could say his name.
Emmanwori.
It was so funny. And they were like, he's starting to really pop in practice as a freshman. And then there was an injury, and he started playing as a freshman, never looked back. So here's Nick talking about his development in South Carolina. Cut 5, Dave.
Honestly, man, it was just a perfect storm brewing in Columbia, especially at the perfect time when I came through there. I owe a lot of thanks to Coach Beamer, Coach White, and Coach Gray, who had a lot of stuff to do with that, and even the strength staff. They had a lot of stuff to do with my development at South Carolina. Just like you said, Ohio State's probably gonna have better dudes year after year, but. At South Carolina, you got to get it out the mud, man. As they say, you got to really grind at South Carolina, put all your chips forward, especially from where I came from. South Carolina was my only Power 5 offer, so I didn't really have, everything how these other 5-star kids had. So I had to really get out the mud. No one really knew my name. Even when I committed to South Carolina, I was kind of under the radar. A lot of people were speculating. I remember a couple of dudes were like, why we keep getting 3-star recruits? He's not going to help us. I just remember all this stuff back then, but I mean, honestly, man, that's just like you said, you know, at South Carolina, like, if I was at Georgia or Alabama, you know, it would be no question I'd be a first-round lock. No, you know, like, no question. No one's questioning anything. No one's thinking about it twice. But at South Carolina, man, you got to get it a little different, man. You got to get it out the mud. Got to grind a little harder. So it makes it better knowing I did all that. Coming from where I came from, Irmo High School, 15 minutes up the road, 3-star recruit. Only one Power 5 offered a first-round pick or a potential first-round pick. Man, it's pretty awesome. And it shows a lot for what Coach Beamer has done. So.
Yeah, and, you know, it's interesting that you hear Nick Emmanwori, you know, giving Shane love and the coaching staff love and everything, especially how things ended at the bowl game. And okay, I always love to hear, like, the backstories. Like, here's a guy, Nick Emmanwori, he heard the noise. Some guys, I don't hear anything. Like, I thought Nick was funny. He says, I really don't really look at mock drafts. I was looking at a couple of mock drafts the other day. But Nick heard that coming out of high school. Hey, he's a 3-star guy.
The 3-star mafia.
Yeah, there we go.
What's this guy going to do for us?
Right, and then all of a sudden, you know, so he's hearing that. And, you know, he's looking at some of the things he looks at when it comes to coming from South Carolina. And he said, look, if I was playing Ohio State, man, we wouldn't be having a conversation about my first-round pick.
Sure. Yeah, there's perceptions depending on the school you come from.
So Nick's, I guess I'm saying Nick was paying attention.
Yeah, he got a little chip on his shoulder.
Nick was paying attention. And that will serve you well as you move into the NFL where, hey, look, whatever you use to get you where you need to get, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Just find that thing. Like, you know, Michael Jordan made up stuff, right?
Yeah.
He made up stories.
I wonder if, you know, at Gamecock497 on Twitter has apologized for saying this kid isn't going to help us out.
Absolutely, because you know what? Those folks always apologize when they're wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're never the first to yell when they're right. They're always the first to admit when they're wrong.
Absolutely. That definitely happens.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Speaking of the draft, in the last 5 years, what teams have drafted the best and which teams have basically not been very good at it? We'll get into that next, give you a little idea. The Athletic did a nice little piece on that. We'll throw you out the teams that do really well and the teams that don't do really well. To the shock of you, Tyler, the teams that do really well typically make the playoffs, and teams that can't draft for crap, you know what they keep doing? Drafting high.
Weird how that works, right?
Bizarre. It's a halftime show. David Ayer punching the buttons. Tyler's here. Terry Ford till 3 on the game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina, we talk about this all the time. You know, if you're just not feeling like you're getting older, you're a guy, it could just be low testosterone. And that's why we say call 803-875-MENS. Go set up a free confidential consultation at the Men's Clinic with Dr. Dan and the staff. And if they think whatever's going on with you could be low T, they'll do some lab work. If it does come back low testosterone, and this is the important part, they will then put you on a program specifically designed for you. Not some cookie cutter mess. Not, you know, Dr. Frank Thomas and Dr. Doug Flutie telling you to text a number. No, this is a program set up specifically for you, for your issues and problems, to help you get back to feeling like you again and getting you back on the right road. Personalized service, 803-875-MENS. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Just make the call. Find out if it's low T or not. Men's Clinic, South Carolina. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Do not forget, we got a ton of baseball coming up here starting tomorrow, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. South Carolina taking on Kentucky. We're going to get into a lot of that once we get out of football and get to top of the hour, too. We'll talk about a little bit with South Carolina, Kentucky. I calculated, Tyler, how many games the South Carolina Gamecocks, out of their losses, how many times they went into the 7th inning either leading or within 2 runs, and they end up losing the game. I will give you that stat, top of the hour, 2 o'clock.
Okay.
You're not going to be surprised, by the way.
Probably not.
No. So we'll get to that and talk more about Kentucky, South Carolina. Again, game 1, 6:15. Pregame tomorrow, 6:30 first pitch on the game in Columbia and our affiliate 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. All right. So if you look at the NFL, the draft is king. The draft is gold. The draft is where, even in a world of free agency and all these other things, you have to be able to draft well to win consistently in the NFL.
Sure.
So the Athletic took a 5-year span and used some basic numbers, some deeper dive analytic numbers, and they came up with the best and worst drafting teams. They listed the teams from 1 to 32. I'm just going to stick with the top 5 and the bottom 5.
Okay.
And I'll give you a couple other teams sprinkled in that matter.
All right.
The best drafting team over the last 5 ball, but the value you got in that trade. First of all, you luck into things sometimes. You just took Jared Goff off their hands so you could get rid of Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
They basically said, look, you got to take Goff, and you went like this. Okay. No one knew Jared Goff would resurrect his career in Detroit. But also some of the other draft capital you got off of that with Penei Sewell. You got St. Brown, the wide receiver. Also, you throw in the fact that again, we're going to get to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars passed on Aiden Hutchinson, number 1 overall.
Yep.
A classic dunce moment by a dunce franchise to take a developmental. Don't get me wrong. Walker has gotten better and last year had a good year rushing the passer. Aiden Hutchinson is a game wrecker.
Yep. And he was until he got hurt last year.
Until he got hurt last year. And Jacksonville said, no, we're not taking him. So Detroit's number 1. Ready? Sit down. You're going to be surprised again. Number 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Shocking.
The Chiefs, again, remember this. They're picking at the bottom of the first round pretty much every year, and they're still killing it in the draft. And they're doing it because they're just smart. Like, again, they take a guy like Trey Smith with the 226th pick overall, and the guy now is one of the best guards in the NFL. They develop players. They draft well. They draft guys, too, that fit their system and their culture. They're just very smart. Number 3, another team. Again, they can't get back to a Super Bowl, but the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Hamilton, the defensive lineman Madubuike, who is really good. They go out and they take the top player on their board, or one of the top players on their board all the time. They stick true to their board, and they trade it back in the first round to get Lamar Jackson, where a lot of teams were saying, he's a running back. They went back into the first round to draft Lamar, and then they built an offense around his skill set. That's just smart football. Yep. Now, it hasn't worked out. They haven't made a Super Bowl. But
a lot closer than a lot of other teams.
Perennially, they're in the mix every year.
Yeah, they just, run into Mahomes every year.
They just run into this guy Mahomes or this guy Josh Allen, and they can't get over that hump. But they are, again, you can say, well, if they're in the NFC, yeah, it doesn't matter. They're in the AFC, and they can't get past Buffalo and Kansas City, but they're a team that knows how to draft. Number 4, we talked about Jason Light earlier and some of the goofy picks. In the last so many years, ever since they went out and got Brady, Light's been on a heater. Tristan Wirfs. They got, they've made some nice draft picks as Tampa Bay. Antonio Winfield Jr. has been really nice at safety. And I'm reading, and you read here, one of the best places they make theirs in the middle rounds. Kate Otten, the tight end, Bucky Irving, the running back. They go and find guys in that day 2, day 3 window, and they become productive players. And this one is going to stun people because we never think about this. But the number 5 team in this metric regarding drafting is the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have had 6 picks in the top 50 over the last 5 years. They've gotten 34 starting seasons out of their players. Micah Parsons obviously is really good. Trayvon Diggs has been useful. Tyler Smith. I mean, the Cowboys have drafted well. Here's the problem. the culture stinks. The owner can't get out of his own way.
Well, and, it doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. They're going to lose in the
They
playoffs.
lose in the playoffs. They don't know how to manage the cap, but they draft well.
And it's really funny that they were scored that well in this metric by the Athletic, because I read this fan survey by Action Network. They have the third least amount of confidence out of a fan base in their ability to draft.
You know why?
They are only above the Jets and the Browns in terms of unconfidence.
And here's why. The owner's a goober.
He is.
And he stands up in front of microphones and says ridiculous stuff.
And, I know we obviously like to make fun of the nepotism within the organization, but if Steven was not there underneath them, God knows what they've done over the past couple of years. He's the one with some sense saying, hey, let's not do that, and let's do something a little bit more sensible.
I mean, that's the funny thing is a lot of this has been that Steven has kind of, on the down low, taken the drafting and stuff away from, Jar, and they've actually drafted pretty well.
They let Jar go in the room and write on the whiteboard whatever he wants, and Steven comes in, erases 3/4 of it, and says, okay, here's what we're actually going to do.
We'll let Dad sit at the top of the table like he's doing something.
He can sit there for the war room camera and make himself look important.
And get up and walk around and talk to people like you're really, making some decisions and you're wheeling and dealing. But I'll make the final decision. And it's gotten better, but everything else stinks.
Yeah,
when it comes to winning Super Bowls and getting to Super Bowls, but they've been drafting pretty well.
And again, under McCarthy, they were regularly winning 10, 11 games. Just they fell apart when the playoffs came around, and we'll see if the Schottenheimer era can be different.
Probably not, because Schottenheimer's not near as good a coach as McCarthy.
By the way, I keep forgetting he's their head coach. By the way, that's how bad that is.
Hey, it took me a minute the other day because they were talking about like McCarthy was the ex-head coach of the Cowboys, and I went, oh yeah, that's right. It's oh my God, it's Schottenheimer's kid who nobody else would have hired. That's right. So Dallas is 5th in this metric, to their credit. Now to the bottom. These are not going to shock you either. The Arizona Cardinals are 32nd. There have been a lot of whiffs. Steve Keim really hurt that organization, the ex-GM. I feel like they're getting it back in the right direction with a new regime. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a good player. There's some accountability now with the new coaching staff and a new front office for Kyler Murray to actually take the position seriously.
Sure.
They've made some other picks that have been pretty good, but they have been so bad at this for the last God knows how many years. And Austin Fort, the new GM, in the last 2 seasons, it feels like it's going to start to turn. I like Gannon, the head coach, but right now they're 32nd over the last 5 years, and Tennessee Titans, Elijah's crew, sitting at 31st.
There's a reason they're drafting number 1.
There have been some bad picks. There just have. I mean, they list some of them here. Isaiah Wilson might have been the worst. He might be one of the worst picks ever.
Did he either didn't play at all or he only played like 5 snaps. I can't remember which one it was.
And there was issues off the field with
stuff,
him, a disaster.
Yeah, that was a bad pick.
4 snaps with the Titans.
That's what it was, 4 snaps.
4 snaps.
Yep, first-round pick.
I mean, Caleb Farley, Treylon Burks, the wide receiver from Arkansas. None of these guys have popped for Tennessee. It's just, it's been terrible. It's just been terrible. And if you're Cam Ward, hey, welcome.
Hey, good luck.
Welcome, because some of the terribleness is with the new GM and the new front office.
Hey, we have all these issues, and you're going to be the one that fixes it.
Because remember, the quarterback is the savior.
I'm the quarterback. I can't fix your issues in the secondary.
I can't play defense. I can't block for myself. And oh yeah, you can. You're the quarterback.
You're actually going to play every position, by the way.
I've watched those Marvel movies.
Yeah.
30th. Now this will surprise you. As much as the Cowboys surprised you to the good, this will surprise you to the bad. Number 30, the New England Patriots.
Past 5 years.
Makes sense.
Not that surprising, actually.
I mean, you saw what they destroyed Mac Jones's career single-handedly. They made some picks that just have not panned out in any way, shape, or form. It might be one of the most talentless rosters in the game, and that goes to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, the GM, helped kill Bill Belichick, the head coach.
Well, and that's when everybody, being critical of Drake May and you're number 1. Who do you have to throw to? Who is around him besides, the janitor at the YMCA?
Matter of fact, the janitor got a new contract. So 29 is now this isn't because it's the Rams. Now the Rams are still in a good spot to be a playoff team this upcoming year. A lot of people think the Rams are a sneaky good squad in the NFC, but with the Rams, the problem and why they get graded so low is they don't value their draft picks.
Yeah.
remember, they didn't have a first-round pick for how many years?
Mm-hmm.
And premium round picks, they go, we want to go get veterans who we know are really good. The Rams do it different than everybody else. So they're sitting at 29 right now on this list. But they took Jared Verse last year in the first round, and Verse was a defensive rookie of the year. This will not surprise you. The Vegas Raiders at 28. You take a guy at wide receiver who commits vehicular homicide and is in prison. You take guys like Alex Leatherwood. Well, I shouldn't say Alex Leatherwood. We don't know yet about him. But we see they took the guy Farrell from Clemson in the top 5 a few years ago.
Yep.
A disastrous pick. I mean, you look at some of the picks that have been taken over the years by the Raiders, and they are awful. I will throw Alex Leatherwood in there. Tyree Wilson was another bad pick. So the Raiders here, to the shock of no one, are sitting at the 1, 2, 3, 4th worst. And finally, the Cleveland Browns.
I can't believe they're only at 27.
I know. And again, part of that problem was you traded a lot of draft capital to get Deshaun Watson, but thank God that worked out. Oh.
Yeah.
Never mind. All right, a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll hear more from Nick Eamon-Wari. We'll look at some of the South Carolina Gamecocks, maybe some we haven't talked about, and what could happen for them draft during these next 3 days of the NFL draft. That's next on the Halftime Show, right here on The Game. Halftime show, talking lots of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll get some more Nick Eamon-Wary here in just a minute. Nick, basically talking about what quarterback would he like to play against or play with. We'll get to that in a second. But now we go to our correspondent live at the football complex right across the street here in Columbia, South Carolina. We've got breaking Gamecock football news. Tyler Head, what do you got there?
Yeah, Gamecock Central reporting that Dante Reno is entering the transfer portal. Of course, was here this past year, got some playing garbage time, but, I think was kind of looked at as the fourth of the 4 scholarship quarterbacks. Last Friday, only got a handful of, throws in the spring game compared to Doty and Noland and Cutter Woods, who played quite a bit. And I know we don't have a depth chart, but that was kind of an indication to a lot of people that maybe he was behind the rest. And, it does seem like he's attempting to find a new place to play, which, again, I don't think anybody's shocked by this.
Okay, scale of 1 to 10, shock level will be a 0.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, again, very few teams carry 4 scholarship quarterbacks. We knew there was a possibility somebody could go in. Dante Reno kind of seemed like the most likely candidate for that.
And look, no one's being mean or negative. It's just, guys want to play.
Yeah, of course.
And, if you're Dante Reno, you got very little run in the spring game. Aaron Nolan got more snaps. Like you said, Carter Woods got more snaps. Luke Doty, obviously Lenore Sellers.
Doty played a majority of the game. Mm-hmm. There were 2 scholarship running backs on the Garnet team, and Luke Doty played a majority of the snaps, if I remember correctly. I don't think you think Jimmy Francis got on the field. So yeah. I think, again, that was kind of an indicator that, I think they're kind of looking at these other guys more than you.
And if you're Dante Reno, you go and you talk to Coach Beamer, and one thing Shane always says, he's honest with these cats. And so I'm sure Dante probably heard, look, you're in competition with the rest of the room to see who can be the backup quarterback. And I can see Dante going, where do I stand right now?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, right now, you're probably behind Luke Doty and possibly Aaron Nolan and maybe Cutter Woods, too, at this point.
And I think about this from the perspective of, okay, he comes in last year as a true freshman where, okay, he knows that he's not going to be the starting quarterback, and you had Robbie Ashford, who was here with, 2 years of eligibility remaining, and it made sense that he would be your backup. But to essentially get passed in the pecking order by 2 guys that had never played at the college level before, that's like, okay, I'm going to have a tough time clawing my way back into this thing. And when you're projecting down the road, again, those guys are younger than you, so there's your potential of being the guy at some point later on.
The sad part of it, just selfishly, is the idea that, when Dante Reno verbaled, he was like the head recruiter.
Oh, yeah. He was all over the place. He was bringing guys in left and right.
And, he was all in with South Carolina. And even Shane went out of his way to talk about Dante Reno and what he did for the program. And so, if you're Shane, look, it's a business. It's football. You got to tell a dude, if a dude isn't as good as the other guys, hey, fella, you're not as good as the other guys. That's just the way this works. But if you're Shane, it probably bums you out a little bit that, here's a guy that was so all in for this program. You got to look him in the eye and say you're getting passed in the depth chart.
Yeah.
No, the depth chart we don't have. But
yeah, well,
passed.
And again, we saw the spring game. We kind of got a feeling this could be possible.
Yeah. And if you're Dante Reno, you're like, okay, I love it here, but I want to go play. There's only one quarterback that can get on the field. And if I'm now QB4 or whatever, I need to go. And I hope it works out for him because, again, my man was trumpeting South Carolina as soon as he decided to come here. So Good luck to Dante Reno. I hope it works out for him.
Yeah.
Hope it works out.
Yeah.
All right. As we move along, back to Nick Eamon-Wary in the draft. Nick was on with Jay and Elijah on the postgame show yesterday. And Nick was asked about what quarterback does he want to face or possibly play with. It's cut 4, Dave. This answer, again, not surprising to anyone.
I really would love to play with or against Lamar Jackson. That's like one of the dudes I kind of respect the most in the league. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is good. Josh Allen is nice, but Lamar Jackson, just his athleticism and he's becoming a better thrower each year he's in the NFL. I want to match up with that athleticism to see how I can hold my own against him. So.
You would hope you're playing with him as opposed to against him.
I was getting ready to say, you want to play with him because, no offense, Nick, you get out, Lamar Jackson gets out with you in the open field one-on-one.
That's tough.
You could get broken ankles on national television. But, Yeah, I mean, I get Lamar. I do. I mean, I think when this is nothing against like a Josh Allen, even because Mahomes has been around a bit now, right?
Sure.
And Mahomes still can make throws. You go, oh my God, that was vile. But Lamar's just different because now he's getting better as a thrower. But really, with Lamar, it's like you watch him take off in the open field. I mean, the stuff he does to defenders. And these are NFL players. He makes them look like children.
You mentioned the teams that passed over in the draft because he was looked at as a running back. That was a knock on his quarterbacking ability, but a compliment to his athleticism because like this dude should be carrying the ball and getting out in space, making guys miss, breaking ankles, breaking tackles, and all that kind of stuff. Well, again, he just happened to also be a really good quarterback as well that is continuing to get better and better, which is a scary thought. Obviously, won multiple league MVPs up to this point, and yeah. If I'm a rookie at safety, I don't care how good I am. I don't want to match up with that guy in the open field.
Well, think about this. His best overall season was last year, and he didn't win the MVP.
Right. Because I think it was a case of, well, he's won it the past couple of years.
It was the Jordan thing.
We got to give it to somebody else. But he very well probably should have won the thing.
I mean, he had a phenomenal, better year than his 2 MVP seasons. So he's a guy just when he tucks the ball and takes off, the whole play, everybody stops when you're watching. If you're watching on TV, the minute Lamar Jackson breaks through the first line of defense, you're watching this thing to see what's going to happen.
Because he's so smooth and he glides with it. And again, he can be running right at you, and then you blink and he's over there. You know what I mean? Like that's athleticism and ability that not everybody has.
Yeah, I mean, so I get it. I get a lot of players. Forget players, just us dorks who watch football. It's like, look at this guy.
He's fun.
It's ridiculous.
It's fun to watch.
It's something else. All right, so that's Nick Moore talking about the one quarterback he'd rather play with or play against in Lamar Jackson. Also, I thought this is not a shock, but Nick was also asked by Jay and Elijah about the highlight of his college football career. This, again, we're on a roll here, no shock.
Yeah, right.
Here's cut to the highlight of Nick's career. Hit it, Dave.
Man, for me personally, that's at the top, and that's at the top of everything. Top of my career, top of my list so far. Just being undefeated in Clemson, Death Valley, whatever they call it, but being undefeated there, man, it's awesome because, if you guys remember when I first came into college on National Signing Day, I hit him with a Clemson's on the clock. So, that's kind of like legendary how right when I said that, we haven't beat Clemson in a while. Then that first year I was in school, we beat Clemson for the first time in years. Broke their like home win streak or something like that. It was like a 70-something win streak. We broke that streak, and then we beat them again my last year in college. So it's been fun, man. That's at the top of my list for sure.
So, yeah, the 2 wins over Clemson, obviously. Both of them, by the way, at Clemson.
Both huge wins.
Yep, both gigantic wins. So, no surprise there. So, that's some stuff. We'll get a little bit more Nick top of the hour, 2 o'clock, as well as we talk nothing but football, and more football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare, punching the buttons for us, making sure we stay on the air. We will come back at our Firehouse Up Text the Hour. We will look at the draft profile of O'Donnell Fortune. That is next here on the Halftime Show on the game. Firehouse sub text to the hour at 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. What you got there, bud?
Reference to our discussion earlier about NFL teams drafting players that had passed. Somebody on the text line helped me out, and I did look it up too. It was actually the CFL that
That's
had
the story. Okay.
a couple of the Ottawa Rough Riders drafted a defensive end that had passed away in a car accident 5 months earlier, and the Montreal Alouettes had drafted another defensive end that had passed away from cancer a few months before the draft. This was back in the mid-'90s.
Okay, so I think the first now I don't know. I know one of them was they totally just screwed up and didn't realize the guy was dead.
Yeah.
I think the car accident one was they didn't realize that they drafted someone. I could be wrong. I thought one of them was, oh my God, we didn't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I could be wrong, but it's been a long time ago, man.
Yeah. And again, this is before internet was as prevalent as it is today and be able to find these things quickly. But yes, it was the CFL where those things happened back in the 90s.
Well, it's like you ever done this like some popular actor, singer, someone, either you think they're dead and they're not, or
Sure.
you're talking about them not realizing they're dead.
Yeah.
And you go, someone will go, you know that guy died. Oh, was that just now? No, that was 10 years ago.
Oh, no.
Oh, my bad.
So sad. Yeah, it was a decade
My bad.
ago.
Or you go, didn't that guy die? And they'll, no.
He's still alive.
Every now and then on the internet, we hear that like someone famous will pop up and say, contrary to posts being put up, I'm not dead.
I feel like Gabriel Iglesias, they rumor him dying like every couple months or
pretty
something
much.
like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
And don't believe everything you read.
All right, thank you for the text. Like always, we appreciate you on the Firehouse sub text line 803-404-6100. All right, O'Donnell Fortune, the beast, the draft Bible. If you like, dive into the NFL draft and the scouting perspective and everything. Here's what they say about Fortune: tall, slender athlete, length. Use it to disrupt route timing and obstruct passing windows. Isn't shy about trusting his instincts and tracking the eyes of the quarterback to make plays. His tackling was fine on some tapes, but atrocious on others, especially when he tried to tackle too high. Overall, Fortune needs to play with improved discipline, both in coverage and in run support, but his ball awareness and fluidity will translate well to the pro game. The grade is an undrafted rookie free agent. But again, he's a guy you could see pick the right team who might not have great depth at corner, start off maybe on a practice squad, start on special teams, and then in a couple years get an opportunity to get more snaps with the defense. And who knows where it goes from there.
Yeah, and obviously he comes from a system that's been really good at putting defensive backs in the NFL. So hopefully that'll give him a leg up as he does hopefully find the right situation when he does get to the league.
So we'll see. Now, Mike Yuva put up a interesting post about all the Gamecocks and where they could end up in the NFL draft conceivably. And, we've talked about the four that are going to go in Nick Ebenwari and TJ Sanders, Demetrius Knight, Kyle Kennard. They're going. Now, then the rest of it, we'll see. A Tonka Hemingway, like Mike's talked to people that think that Tonka go in the 4th or 5th round. We looked at some of these other services that think he's a guy that would probably go 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, Field Yates had him on one of his buzzy guys list after his final mock draft as somebody that might really kind of jump up and surprise you. And again, he does have that athletic ability to do a lot of things, so we'll see.
Now, Josh Simon, I've seen a lot of the boards, like the top 500, top 1,000, whatever. Simon would project to be a guy that's a fringe, either 7th round pick or undrafted rookie free agent. But I think Josh Simon, like Tonka Hemingway, you put these dudes on the right team that will use these players' positives, I think they can be productive. Again, they're not going to be every down starters, but if you use the skill set of these guys and you put them in the right team with the right situation, they can help you in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Torricelli Simpkins, I've seen a lot of undrafted rookie free agent, maybe 7th round. Then you go to Bam Martin Scott or you go to Debo Williams that are probably going to be undrafted rookie free agents. DeAndre Jules, we did the scouting breakdown yesterday. We read one. His size and just physical ability might get him drafted in the 7th round, but he's a project.
Yeah.
He's an absolute project. And, of course, Kai Kroger will end up punting in the NFL for 10 years. He's not going to get drafted most likely, or somebody might draft him on the 3rd day, but Kai Kroger is going to be around forever punting.
Sure.
He'll be a guy, once his right foot gets tired, he'll punt left-footed. Alex Huntley will probably be an undrafted rookie free agent. Not probably, he will be. So will Rashawn Lee. Delvion Campbell. I think Campbell, can play in the NFL for a decent amount of time because he was a beast on special teams. And he's a big guy. He might get some snaps at wide receiver every now and then, but I think Campbell's going to make his way in the NFL on special teams because he got no problem. Also, let's see, Mike puts Kamar Bell in here. He'll be an undrafted rookie free agent. Gilbert Edmond, the same. David Spalding, Juju McDowell. I mean, Juju McDowell could land with the right team and needs a returner, and maybe he could get some run in the NFL in the return game, but that's kind of where it's sitting right now. You got the 4 guys you know that are going. If you saw 2 or 3 more Gamecocks go on that last day, it wouldn't surprise you.
Yeah, of course, the record for Gamecocks in a single draft is 709 in 2013, and a lot of names out there. Potential. Maybe you could get to 7. Maybe it gets 8. We'll have to see how it checks out.
Well, so let's say, again, let's say Tonka Hemingway gets drafted. Let's say Rocket Sanders gets picked on the last day, whatever, and you throw in maybe somebody else who could get picked out of this whole crew of draft eligible guys. You could see him get to 7. You absolutely could, without a problem. What's trending at 2 is coming up, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Obviously, we'll talk some baseball. Big series. Every series is a big series for South Carolina right now. They'll take on a Kentucky team. Took 2 out of 3 from Tennessee last weekend in Knoxville, and then smacked the brakes off of Louisville in the midweek. And we'll get into that. And also, everybody's talking about the House settlement for college football. Okay, we got to get ourselves together because this House settlement's going to get done, and we're going to have to go by these new rules that most likely will go to court and get thrown out. Everybody's ready for the House settlement except one person, Tyler. The person that matters the most.
The NCAA?
The judge.
Oh, the judge.
We got that coming up. We'll give you the latest on all that. And what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. It is the halftime show. David Ayers making sure we stay on the air. Tyler Heads here. I'm Terry Ford. I think we have another thing of tickets to give away for Casey and the Sunshine Band. I got to check out just to make sure. That might be coming to the 2 o'clock hour as well. Here on the halftime show on the game. Halftime show, What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on The Game. Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach, The Game Network. David Ayers here, Tyler Head, I'm Terry Ford as we go till 3. All right, so Nick Eamon-Warry, obviously, we've been talking a lot about Nick today on Saturday early, so that's where we're at. Todd McShay, let's get this cut, Dave. Cut 10. Todd McShay used to be with ESPN for years, still does draft stuff. Todd McShay was talking about Nick Eamon-Warry and that crazy combine that Nick had.
First of all, Nick Eamon-Warry from South Carolina, your guy, stole the show.
We knew it was coming. I mean, we knew this guy was going to have a big workout.
Yeah, but not like this.
Yeah. He's 6'3", 220 pounds, 32 and a quarter inch arms. Then he runs a 4.38 40-yard dash.
Oh.
Has an 11-foot, 6-inch broad jump, and then it has a 43-inch vertical. Those are outrageous numbers for any defensive back, let alone a guy that's 6'3", 220 pounds.
You don't draft on measurables, right?
Right.
But you do draft on potential and traits. He's going to be in the first round. You don't have those kind of traits combined with really good tape. Not perfect tape, really good tape.
I come into your office and you're the GM,
Yep.
and I'm a scout, and you say to me, what can he do? I say everything. He is versatile. He can play over the slot. He can play high. He can play in the box. He can match up with tight ends. He can play zone. I think he's got outrageous ball skills. Is there some concerns on tape? Sure, I'll give you that. I thought he missed some tackles this year that I was a little bit surprised by. There are some issues on tape. No one is completely clean. But if you're asking me, what are his abilities and what can he do? The answer is everything.
Yeah, I mean, he has the potential to be phenomenal. Now, I will push back a bit on he can cover in the slot because we watched a year of that and Nick struggled.
Sure.
And I just think because the way he's built is a problem because he's not a guy, look, he can run really fast. Obviously, he's strong. He can jump. But the quick change of direction, you put a really quick, twitchy slot receiver up against Nick. Nick's going to struggle against that guy because, again, it's called the laws of physics of your body. You know, a guy who's big is going to have a tough time moving with a smaller guy who's really quick and twitchy. But Nick, everything else they said, man, yeah. I mean, does he miss a couple tackles because he comes in wanting to destroy you? Yes. You know, sometimes you just got to set yourself up and make that proper fundamental wrap-up instead of coming in saying, you know what I feel like doing? I feel like separating your head from your body.
Yeah, and he was very good at those fundamentals. And again, Preston has talked about his tackle of Luther Burden, where he did everything by the book.
Yep.
Those kind of things that he can do for you out in the open
Matter of
field.
fact, you have it here. Preston loved that tackle so much, he wanted to make sure you put it in the audio today.
He did.
I remember Preston, after that Missouri game, Preston was in tears.
Yeah, get your hips down. You sit in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
Keep
Head up.
Shoulder, wrap, the whole thing. Oh, yeah. So we will see Nick again tonight go in the first round, somewhere like from the middle to the bottom of the first round. Eamon-Warry will hear his name called. Absolutely. So we've been talking about that a ton and what's trending it too. We have baseball coming up, though, against Kentucky tomorrow. We'll get more into it tomorrow, kind of previewing. You know, Kentucky's got good pitching. They steal a lot of bags. They're kind of what people thought they would be, a middle-of-the-pack SEC team this year. They're sitting at 8-10, but they're playing well. Won 3 of their last 4, 2 of those in Knoxville against the Volunteers, and the other one against a solid Louisville squad in the midweek. For South Carolina, I went over this today. I told you I was going to do it, and finally I did. I went through their losses. In 10 of South Carolina's losses, they were either leading or within 2 runs going into the 7th inning.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
10 of their losses.
You know, just kind of thinking off the top of my head, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Because, again, there have been very few games. I know they got run rolled twice in conference play. It's like, man, they just weren't even competitive whatsoever. Like, no, they've been in a lot of these games. They've been in position to win these games and be there in the late innings. And whether it be the pitching failed them or just not having enough offense to come up in clutch situations, they've come up short consistently.
And, okay, so we take 3 of those games away because 2 were against Clemson and 1's against North Carolina.
Right.
So that's 7 SEC games where you were either ahead, tied, or behind by no more than 2 runs. Let's say you win 3 of those.
You're now 7 and
11?
whatever. 7 and 11. you're sitting a whole lot better right now and saying, okay, what, do you have to win 6 more games
Yeah.
to put yourself in good position for the postseason?
Then all of a sudden, instead of going 9-3, you go 6-6 in the league.
A lot more doable.
And no one's trying to say this, trying to put lipstick on any of this. We're just saying that's where, out of all the focuses of things this year that have disappointed folks, if you were going to rank them, that's the number one thing is bullpen-wise, late in games, they have had problems, either holding leads or keeping the game tight to where maybe the offense can either take the lead off a tie game or get the game tied from being down by a run or two.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing with basketball, where, again, it's not like they were getting blown up by 30 points every single game. They were competitive. They nearly beat 2 of the teams that were in the Final Four. And, again, they weren't able to get the job done, so you knew they weren't far off, but not being able to close the deal is frustrating. Same thing with baseball now.
It's like because, again, you're just not as good as the other team in key areas or just not as good in key moments. And just like it's so weird how the men's basketball season and the baseball season have kind of like rolled down the same path together, not in a good way. But, yeah, I mean, and look, the other part of that, too, is there have been games where, the pitching sort of held up late, but the offense couldn't drive runners in who were on base. They could have made a difference. It's just it has been the late innings of games when it's time for either, you to get the big pitch or the big hit or the big defensive play. You're not getting it, just like basketball. Couldn't hit the big shot, couldn't get the big stop, couldn't get the big rebound, couldn't make the big free throw. It's so weird how it's a lot alike.
Yeah, and to have those back-to-back to each other, because the thing about men's basketball is like, okay, the season's not great, but at least baseball's coming. For baseball to do the exact same thing makes you want to pull your hair out.
It's very, 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 it's creepy.
It
That's
is.
what it is, Tyler. It's creepy. All right, one other note, men's basketball, a little rumor, and I saw this on Gamecock Central a little while ago. There is a transfer portal rumor. South Carolina, according to reports, has reached out to Jarvis Moss, who played last year. He was at, I'm blanking. Let me look it up again here. He played at Radford, started his career at Stanford, went to Davidson, then ended up at Radford. So he was transferring down.
Yep.
But last year at Radford, Radford, first of all, won 20 games. Moss led the team, scoring 13.5 points per contest, shot almost 38% from three, 84% from the line. He was all Southern Conference and an academic All-American as well. 6'4" guy, so he's got a little length. So he has been sniffed around by South Carolina in the portal. We'll see what happens there. He's not a point guard. He's a 2 guard. But this is a guy who can shoot a 3, had a good year offensively. Now, has he just finally reached whatever potential people thought when he came out of high school and went to Stanford? Maybe. He is 6'4", and he can shoot a 3, and he's a good free throw shooter. And I haven't found out what he's like as a defender, but again,
Okay.
okay.
Sure.
I mean, you still got scholarships to give out. Right now, you're sitting at 4 available scholarships.
And still waiting on that point guard.
Still waiting on that point guard. The more we go along, look, could that happen at some point? Yeah, I'm not going to give up because there's still guys in the portal. But I'll say it again. If you're depending on Eli Ellis to come in here and be your point guard as a freshman, or Michi Johnson to all of a sudden be able to run the point, I think you're going down a very, very dangerous path.
Yeah, probably so.
So, and again, I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see them get a nice, solid pass-first point guard to quarterback the offense. There's still a couple guys out there. I'll look again this afternoon, but is this the way you're going to go? Okay. I hope it works. I really do. I genuinely hope it works. And I like Lamont. Love to see this thing get back to the fun we had 2 years ago when it was a lot of fun.
Sure.
That was great.
Well, we all want. Makes it more fun for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Including
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Tristan's Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. You know what? In honor of Nick Ebenwari most likely going in the first round, Dave, let's fire up a couple Ebenwari highlights. Let's feel good. Let's start off with Cut 7. The fantastic pick 6 against Oklahoma in that curb stomping of the Sooners in Norman. Hit Cut 7 there, Dave.
Sooners are down 14 points to Carolina in the first ever meeting. Hawkins, freshman, takes it in the pocket, gets hit as he throws it into coverage again, and picked off again at the 40 of Carolina down the near sideline. That's Eman Worry towards the end zone. Are you kidding me? Touchdown Carolina. Touchdown Nick Eman Worry. Pick 6. Dylan Stewart with the pressure. Eman Worry runs it into the end zone for his second pick 6 on the season.
That's our buddy Todd Ellis on the call.
That pretty much ended the game. It was 21-0.
It was done. And Eman Worry also had the pick 6 against Kentucky and the one call back against LSU as well. You know what? In honor of our buddy Preston Thorne, give us cut 11, Dave. Nick Eman Worry's beautiful form tackle of Luther Burden, who will most likely go in the second round of this draft. Luther Burden of Missouri, their fine wide receiver, Nick, wrapping up Burden in space and making a beautiful, perfect Preston Thorne form tackle. Cut 11, Dave.
Play for the last 4 or 5 snaps.
Cut. Able to find Burden, who gets stuck by the first man of the night here, bringing down Luther Burden in space to force this third down. Missouri just 1 of 8 on third down.
Here we go.
And it was
Beautiful tackle.
beautiful. If you go back and see the video, I mean, that's what them old fundamental VHS tapes were all about back in the day.
You know the worst thing about when you would, I remember, when we had the VCR tapes and you would record a game, then you like, I'm gonna go back and watch it in a couple days when I get a chance. 2-3 days later, you grab it, you pop it in, and you're like, why the hell is Jeopardy? Oh,
You forgot
what are we doing?
you forgot to do the little change the channel on the VCR.
Right. What have I done?
I forget how that worked, but yeah, if you didn't put it on the right channel, it'd record whatever was on whatever channel you left it on.
Or my favorite, when you record it, you watch it, you put it away because you want to save it.
Yeah.
And you break it out like God knows how long later. You got a buddy over, hey, man, I got the tape of that game. You got to watch his first play. And you turn it up. It's like, why is there a movie from Lifetime here?
I remember I don't remember what game I was trying to record, but it ended up recording like 2 hours of The Simpsons or something like that because I didn't change it from Fox or whatever it was.
I remember like, you get to, I thought you were done with that game. I taped over it. I've been dying to watch that movie with Jane Seymour. What have you done?
Aren't you glad we've moved past VHS so that doesn't happen anymore?
The only thing with DVR now is this. Did you delete my game?
That happens too.
You watched it by now, haven't you?
No.
If I would have, I would have deleted it.
I was going to watch it again.
Or when like, I don't know if it happens here, but Xfinity, up in the middle Atlantic, after a while, they'll just wipe out the memory and some of your stuff there in your DVR.
Spectrum will hold on to something for a year.
Okay.
If you don't, which I think that's fair. If you don't watch it within a year, you're probably not going to watch it. But I don't know, if you have that game, hey, maybe I want to go back and watch it in the summer or something like that. You got a year to watch it.
Yeah, a Baltimore Orioles named John Means threw a no-hitter a few years ago against, I believe it was Seattle.
Yeah.
And I was saving it because it was a no-hitter.
Yeah.
Xfinity decided they wanted to.
No, you don't need to see it. Hey, there's no hits. What's the fun in that, right?
Boring. Okay, remember the name Claudia Wilkin.
Okay.
She's very important, and we'll tell you why next on the Halftime Show with David Ayer and Tyler Head and Terry Ford. What's trending at 2 on the game? halftime show. What's trending at 2? What's trending is, well, Claudia Wilken. Claudia Wilken is the judge that is handling the House versus the NCAA settlement. Claudia is losing her patience. Is that a nice way to put it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate.
Claudia will not approve the House versus NCAA settlement as it is presently written. She said in an order on Wednesday. Claudia told attorneys they have 14 days to either phase in or grandfather roster limits, which is a central part of the final approval hearing earlier this month. Now, during an April 7th hearing, the U.S. District Court in Northern California, Wilken told attorneys for both the plaintiff and the NCAA to address her concerns about roster limits within 1 week. Lawyers filed the supplemental brief but did not change the verbiage around the roster limits after Wilken suggested phasing them in or grandfathering athletes currently on rosters. On Wednesday, Wilken said she will deny settlement approval if the roster limit changes are not made. Now, look, here's this, and you're saying who cares about all this? But roster limits matter.
Mm-hmm.
Not to football or men's basketball or whatever. It matters to gymnastics. It matters to volleyball. It matters to soccer. To all these non-revenue generating sports where athletes are going to lose their spots. They just are. They're going to get kicked to the curb, or sports in general, whole sports will get kicked to the curb. Because it's all about football and men's basketball, and to a lesser extent, women's basketball. And some places, other sports matter more, like baseball in certain places matter, and some places it doesn't. But this has been the fear of mine. Well, I shouldn't say fear. I'm not staying awake at night shaking. But my concern the whole time was athletes who bust their hump, just like college football players and college basketball players, are going to lose their opportunity on the collegiate level because either their sports are going to get just wiped out or the rosters are going to get a lot smaller and they're not going to get an opportunity to do what they do.
Yeah, so this is essentially saying if you already have a roster spot right now, you're able to maintain that until you run out of eligibility, and then as time goes on, rosters will be readjusted down to whatever numbers those respective sports need to get them to.
Right. And the NCAA is pushing back because the NCAA wants to control this. Because, to be honest, everybody cares about football and basketball.
Yeah.
And they care about, and you know what else they care about even more? Keeping money in their pocket. And I've said this all along. Universities are a business. Businesses don't like to make less money. No business goes like this. Oh, heck, that's going to cost us another 18, 20 million. You know what? We're still making 70 million.
Right.
That's okay. No, businesses do this. Well, we like making 90 million. And you're going to make us spend more money to get to 70 million? You know what we're going to do? We're going to cut stuff so we can get back to 90 million. That's what's going to happen. And just that's going to be the collateral damage of all this, is a lot of sports, especially Olympic-type sports, are going to get pushed aside. Now, again, you can always make them club sports. You can always have them have an entity away from the collegiate level, so you can still have people participating in these sports, but it's just not the same.
No, it's not. And again, for a lot of these athletes coming to college, getting scholarships and all that kind of stuff, it's how they're here. So having the opportunity to do that through club, not quite the same.
No, and this is
and you don't have the same resources either.
No, and so your training isn't going to be as good. It just isn't. And I know there are people right now going, "Hey guys, I don't care. I don't care about the volleyball team. I care about football, or I care about men's basketball, or maybe women's basketball, whatever. You care about the bigger sports." There's only two consistent revenue-generating sports in collegiate athletics, and it's football and men's basketball. And everything else, some places they make money, some places they don't. So, like we talk about baseball here, obviously is a huge thing, but baseball in other parts of the country, they don't give a crap.
No.
Women's basketball, it's big here. There are places in the country you can go there to study.
Sure. Yeah. Volleyball, big in Nebraska.
Gigantic in Nebraska.
Not big everywhere else.
Ready? Wrestling at Iowa.
Yeah,
sells
huge.
out, baby.
Yeah, I'm sure they generate a decent little bit out there, but,
yeah, but
not here.
Wrestling at Southern Miss.
I don't know if Southern Miss has a wrestling team, to be honest with you.
Just make it up something. So that's the problem here, and that's what the judge is trying to say. At least the people that are already in college, they can't be touched.
Yeah.
At the very least.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
And, you got to think about the human element of this, too, that, you can't just go snatch it out of their hands, or ideally not. So, yeah, they're going to have to rework this to come up with that. And then, finally, maybe we can get this ball rolling.
And they will get it done because, she's just like this. Look, I am going to deny this thing, and we're going to just move on.
Yeah.
Because I got a lunch date. I got lunch with a friend. I'm tired of this mess. You people are ridiculous. Get it done, or I'm just going to say no and
good luck figuring it out.
Have fun with the billions of dollars you're going to have to pay. So that's what's going on with that. All right, this is cool news. Former Major League Baseball player at University of California. Man, I'm losing my mind. Former MLB outfielder and South Carolina star Jackie Bradley Jr. will join ESPN as a college baseball analyst. Of course, Jackie Bradley Jr. looked at very fondly in this town for his time as a Gamecock. Excellent defender. Hung out in Major League Baseball for a decent amount of time.
11 years, I think.
Yep. And now will be analyst for ESPN doing college baseball. So good for Jackie Bradley Jr.
Very cool. And obviously, when you have a program as successful as South Carolina was, these guys come back around, they're thought of highly and get an opportunity to be in the media and that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get to talk about his alma mater too much in the postseason this year, but hopefully that changes in the years to come.
All right. And, again, circling back around what's trending at 2, Jimmy Butler. We'll see what happens. Butler got hurt last night in Golden State's line, pretty much. So we'll see if Jimmy Butler can play in Game 3 at Golden State. Look, the Warriors did what they had to do. They went to Houston, got a split, but now you got to hold serve at home, and it's going to be very difficult without Jimmy Butler.
And if he does play, is he at 100%? Is he close?
Is he going to be limping around?
Is he going to be, right. Limited?
Hey, they might give him one of those wonder shots they give some of these guys, and all of a sudden...
No, they don't do that. You saw Varsity Blues, right?
That's
where
right.
they gave him the shot in the knee at halftime.
Everybody left Hostetler, and guess what? Magically, it was a lot better.
Yeah, they put up those little black curtains, and you can't see anything.
Well, that's like
Mr.
now
Miyagi was in that.
Huh?
Mr. Miyagi rubs his hands together.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they got a medicine man to come over there and
did a dance.
Did a dance, and his knee's all better.
That's right. Nobody would ever shoot anybody up with anything. They don't want to do anything like that. Don't forget now, we have our Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. If a Gamecock hits a Grand Slam, it has happened multiple times this year.
It has, and probably be helpful to have some this weekend.
Man, wouldn't it be nice for a few Grand Slams? The pot goes up $25 each game. Right now, it is currently at $250. You go to 1075thegame.com to register for the contest. Some interesting stuff in the greatest day in the history of the world, which is April 24th. That's next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. This time every day. Greatest day in the history of the world. Today, April 24th. Got a really good one today we're going to get to in a minute.
I'm excited.
Oh, it's classic draft. One of the best draft moments ever involving Mel Kiper. We're going to get to that here in a minute. It's phenomenal. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. We always try to grab you a little old school. It's going to throw you one. This one, 1967, the Philadelphia 76ers win the NBA championship by taking out the San Francisco Warriors. I believe, my memory doesn't serve me, Wilt Chamberlain finally got himself a championship. He had been smacked down by Bill Russell and the Celtics so many different times. I think Chamberlain was on that team and won a championship.
Let's see. You said 1967?
Right, 1967. See if Wilt Chamberlain's on that team in Philadelphia.
He was on the Philadelphia 76ers.
There we go.
That's correct.
Yep. Hal Gear was the point guard on that team, too, if my memory serves me. Really nice player, Hal Gear. Very underrated player. Again, a guy that was really good before SportsCenter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, also, greatest day in the history of the world. 1988 NFL draft. Your Atlanta Falcons. They drafted Andre Bruce with the first pick overall in 1988. Linebacker, then turned tight end later in his career. Not really great at either.
I would say I don't recall too many stories about Andre Bruce.
Your dad didn't tell you a lot of Andre Bruce stories?
That tells me how successful that ended up being.
Dad didn't run a son, sit here on Dad's knee. Let me tell you about the great Andre Bruce.
I don't recall any of those.
Yeah. Probably Bruce Willis would have been a better pick. Just saying.
That's back when he was making action movies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, did you see what he did? I mean, come on. Bruce Willis?
Yeah. My wife still hasn't seen Die Hard, by the way.
Yeah, really?
I keep trying to convince her to see it. Like, it's the best Christmas movie ever.
It's a great Christmas movie. Whenever people say that, yeah, others go insane. It's so funny. I could care less.
That's why I do it, because it bothers people.
I know. I don't care. I mean, it's like...
It's not a Christmas movie. It took place at Christmas.
It's one of those things in life that are like, do you really want to argue over this?
Why is everybody in the building? Because there's a Christmas party.
Right. There's Christmas lights everywhere. If someone wants to say it's a Christmas movie, okay, who cares? But you're right. When you say it, people, it's like that stupid hot dog is a sandwich, whatever thing.
Like, can't it just be its own thing?
Right. It's just
a hot dog.
It's a hot dog. 1994, David Robinson scored 71 points to win the NBA scoring title. San Antonio got a victory over the Clippers. Robinson, fourth NBA player to score more than 70 points in a game. And getting that 70 edged Shaq for the scoring title. There are some of those, like George Gervin once had to score off those 50 points or something to take the scoring title from David Thompson back in the 70s. And Gervin went out and scored like 63. And every now and then in NBA history, you've seen this happen. David Robinson scored 71 in 1994 to win the NBA scoring title over Shaq. Now we're to it. This day in 1994, the Cincinnati Bengals took Dan Wilkinson, a defense end at first, and Tobin basically said, Mel Kiper. Who the hell is Mel Kiper? My mailman has as much credibility as Mel Kiper. Bill Tobin then, and this is something that's not shown a lot, doubled down when he met with the media in Indianapolis. Here's Tobin opening up the press conference right after that first round of the NFL draft. Here's Bill Tobin starting this presser off by taking shots at Mel Kiper. Hit it, Dave.
What do you want to cover first, our players or that jerk in Baltimore? Well, let me tell you a little bit. I mean, the people in this room. Mel Kiper lives in Baltimore, and I found all this out about the last 3 days. He lives in Baltimore. He tried to hang around the practices up there, I think when Teddy was a coach earlier, and this didn't come from Teddy. This came from another guy. But he always wanted to work in the NFL. He has no credentials to work in the NFL. He always just hung around. Nobody ever hired him. He's never been hired by anyone. When the Colts moved here, he was very, very upset. So every chance that Mel Kiper gets to shoot at the Colts in Indianapolis, he's going to do it. I happen to have 3 minutes to take a shot back at him. What I said there, probably 300 personnel people in the league would like to have said it. But as I walked down the hallway there, Tom Donahoe called me and said that I won the ringing endorsement of the whole Steeler organization. Thank you for saying it. That was Tom Donahoe. He reaches out to everyone. I got a sister in Burlington Junction, Missouri, that when we took William Perry back in 84 or 85, I talked to her 2 days later, and she said, why'd you take the fat kid? And I said, you just have to believe me, he was the best available. And he was the best available. But, I mean, Mel Kiper gets to your sister. He gets to your mother. He gets to everybody. I just read, somebody wrote the article about the receiver down here at Indiana. Came out 3 years ago. Was supposed to be in the 3rd or 4th round by Mel Kiper. He never was drafted. Wasn't even signed as a free agent. He hurt that kid. But there's others he's hurt. Listen to him trash people. This guy can't do this. This guy's dumb. This guy can't do that. And unfortunately, some of the college coaches out there think that Mel Kiper is part of the National Football League inner circle. And he isn't. Mark Carrier, when we brought him into town that year, I had a TV show with him at 10:30 that night. We sat down there prepping for the show before it happened, and he said, you know, Mr. Tobin, I thought I was a pretty darn good football player until I got to Chicago, and we flew him in that day, and all I hear is a criticism, and it all came from ESPN Mel Kiper.
All right, there we go. Thanks, Dave. That's good. Bill Tobin, for 3 minutes,
My God.
killed Mel Kiper.
See, I'd always heard the who's Mel Kiper anyway, but I've never heard the press conference before. That was great.
That's phenomenal. And I mean, and if you're Mel Kiper, aren't you putting your feet up on your desk going,
Yep.
Gotcha. I am right now renting all the rooms in your head. Thank you very much. It's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. All right, greatest day in the history of the world as we move on. This day in 2004, Mel Kiper, I think, was okay with this. Ole Miss quarterback Eli Manning was drafted first overall by the San Diego Chargers, much to the annoyance of the Manning family, who basically said, we don't want Eli playing for the San Diego Chargers.
How do you feel as a fan of that team that the number 1 overall pick says, I hate your organization, I want nothing to do with you?
Think about it. Well, I mean, I lived it when I was a young kid, and the Colts drafted John Elway.
That's right.
And John Elway didn't want to play for the Colts.
Yeah, I don't want to come. So,
and I'll be honest with you.
You want me to live in Baltimore?
Well, I'm not playing for that clown show of an organization and that drunk owner. Now, again, as a fan, you take it personal because he's saying, I don't want to play for your team,
Sure.
which is a shot at you and your city and everything else. And Elway, Denver came to Baltimore, and Elway started for the Broncos. And I don't think I've ever seen more hate and vile thrown at one player in my entire life. Elway sucks was being chanted for 4 quarters.
Sure.
When he was coming in and out of the stadium, they were throwing, they were throwing glass bottles toward John Elway. I think they were throwing knives, too. I don't know. And I remember it was so bad. A columnist for the Baltimore Sun, a guy named John Stedman, a phenomenal, historic Hall of Fame columnist, basically said, I'm ashamed to be a Baltimorean after watching that on Sunday. But I was a kid, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Kill him. But when you get older and get some sense.
It's like, oh, that's kind of bad. I don't remember. How did San Diego react when Eli went there for the first time?
Well, they never happened because I don't know. I gotta look that up.
He had to play there eventually.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I don't know. Take a look.
Let me see.
I mean, honestly, as you get older, you realize this, whether it's San Diego, whether it's Baltimore, wherever, when a player doesn't want to play for your team, the reason usually is because your team stinks and your ownership's a joke and your front office is in disarray and there's a revolving door in the head coach's office. And really, it's not you hate the player, but then when you take a step back and you think a little bit, Tyler, you're going, wait a minute, if I was Eli Manning or if I was John Elway, I wouldn't want to play for the Colts or the Chargers either.
Yeah, so he played against the Chargers on the road, Sunday Night Football, a year later in 2005. And, they booed him and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it was as violent as Elway's trip to Baltimore.
It was intense. Elway got hurt in the game, and I believe it was Steve DeBerg came in. And the fans were bummed because they wanted to keep screaming, Elway sucks, and boo him and throw stuff at him. But again, once I got older, I said, you know what? If I'm John Elway, I would have done the same thing. And I love my hometown, but the owner was a drunk. The organization was a joke. I wouldn't want to play for him either.
Right.
So, and with Eli Manning, the same thing. I get it. Remember, the Chargers had just screwed up with Ryan Leaf. In, what was it, 98, when they took Leaf second after Peyton Manning was taken first by Indianapolis. I get it. I do. And they use their leverage to trade. I mean, and Phillip Rivers, really, if you go by regular season quarterbacking, Phillip Rivers is better than Eli Manning.
Yeah.
But Eli Manning was phenomenal in 2 playoff runs and has 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah, look, if Eli Manning didn't have the 2 Super Bowl rings, he's probably not a Hall of Famer.
No, not at all.
Again, he just was able to turn it on in the playoffs, went on those 2 incredible runs. And, that's just the legacy of Eli Manning.
I know. I give Eli Manning a ton of credit. Outplayed Tom Brady in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. at some point.
He's on a short list with guys like Nick Foles.
It's unreal. Unreal. So that's great. That's a really good greatest day in the history of the world today, with some interesting stuff coming from the draft. All right, we will do our handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine, with the post-game show and also our Firehouse Sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. Next, it's a halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. What you got there, my man?
Throwing full beer bottles at people sounds like an average day in Baltimore.
Is that what someone said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've told the story, and Jay knows it was in the halftime show. I told the story. You had the classic at the Preakness, one of the crown jewels, the Triple Crown. They used to have the iconic running of the urinals.
Yeah. And they just throw beer bottles at that guy.
You ever seen the YouTube? Go to YouTube and just put in YouTube running of the urinals. You'll see not sober people running on top of porta potties and not sober people throwing full bottles of beer at
What year do I have to put in to see you doing it?
That
All
was
of 'em?
before
All
video.
of 'em?
That was before the video.
You hold the record?
Thank God.
Yeah.
Somebody's holding a camcorder as I'm running and ducking. The worst one was a guy who, again, no one's sober in the infield of the Preakness back in the day. And you always had the guy that would go into the portable bathroom, the portable toilet, and his buddies thought it'd be funny to flip it over while he was in there.
That's, you know what?
Turn it on there, Jay. Turn it on there, Jay.
It is on.
There you
sure
go.
about There you go. Okay.
Yeah, turn it up.
Turn it up. Go ahead.
No, okay. Thank you, Dave. I had the button pushed.
Hit the button again.
It was on.
No, he's good. I can hear him.
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, go
good.
ahead.
Thank you. What was I going to say? Oh, no, that's terrible. I don't care how much you think that's not funny.
Awful.
That's not
Awful.
funny.
To me, again, that was the one thing, and I only saw it once. And I'm not going to lie to you. It was cringy.
Yeah, that's not funny.
It was like, and I know, I didn't even want to see him come out.
Sure.
I just took off. I did not want to see that dude come out of there.
What kind of sicknesses and diseases can you contract from a flipped over
Well, I
porta
mean, that's
potty?
just it. Yeah, I mean,
All of them.
that's just that. Look, there's things that are funny. That's not funny.
That was one that was, now don't get me wrong, watching a guy run urinals and they're throwing beer bottles at him is funny.
That's funny.
But the idea that,
Because he's choosing to do that.
yes, he wants to, because he knows the minute you do that, what happens to you, so you're asking for it.
Yeah, you set
But
yourself
some
up.
poor
for that.
schlub who goes in, and I've always thought this, what kind of friends do you have?
Yeah, that's not funny.
That's not my friends. The minute you do that to me, you're not my friends anymore.
That's their last day of being your friend.
Exactly. I'm finding new friends, right?
I'm out.
That was my
By the way, you're about to get beat up by the guy that was just in the flipped over porta potty.
who's going to chase you down, covered in every disease, who is going to beat the hell out of
That
you.
becomes like some kind of like horror movie spoof where later
guy turns
that
into-
dude gets not that he turns into a monster, that he goes to every one of their houses
And gets 'em.
does something just like horrible
To get even with them?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think, too. It's bad enough if it was someone you didn't know and you thought it was funny, but that's your friend.
Yeah, that's not fun.
That's like your bud.
Well, also, you got to ride back in the car with them smelling like the inside of a porta potty.
Ready? If he drove,
Yeah, that's not. No.
that was. I did. I saw it once to go to another part of the infield. I can't watch
it's
that.
where you see that and you look at your friends and you're like, don't you even think about
Oh,
it.
we all looked at each other and said that will never
Is
happen.
there out behind the paddock? Is there a location where the maintenance crew of the paddock maybe stores the leftover equine waste? If you follow me. Okay. At that point, the dude that was the victim goes to like the security and says, "I need you to round up my boys, and we're going to take a walk."
Yep.
And then basically at the point of a bayonet or some such.
Oh yeah, it's
hey fellas.
Oh yeah.
Dive in.
Oh, just, yeah.
That's the we call that the blue mile.
Yes.
Chemicals inside the porta potty.
Oh yeah, that again, that's one of those things that you see and you go. I've seen a lot of things that some people think are funny that I never thought would. I was like, that's vile, and it's some of those things we can't talk about here. But that was one I'll never forget as long as I live. I was like, oh God, because I'd heard of it, right, but I'd never seen it. Yeah. And I saw it. I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good.
That's not.
All right, so fella, you ready for the draft? You set to go?
I think so. I'm not the biggest. The first round is enjoyable, but it's just pick by pick. So basically, maybe I'll put on Seinfeld reruns and then just flip over just in time, or maybe put it like a little sub screen on YouTube TV or something. I don't know. By tomorrow or certainly Saturday, you just got to be a junkie to tune in.
I'll watch it Saturday because I'm a goober for that stuff.
Yeah,
man.
I'll wait for for the alert on my phone for the Broncos. I did, by the way. Speaking of the Broncos, I looked at a full 7-round mock today, and I forget who did it now. I'm trying to give somebody credit, and I've forgotten because I watched.
The running back from North Carolina.
They could probably
Marion.
Marion. Yeah,
Marion.
They. I would probably they just got their pass catching tight end in free agency, so something to continue to help the offense grow and take pressure away from Bo will be good.
Hampton would be interesting. to take him. He can catch it. He can run it.
That's what and that's what Sean's going to want. You're going to want that kind of dual running back type. So
yeah, they gotta like. I think they need a little bit of offensive line help too. There, I think it's better, but they could a couple pieces on the offensive line would help them.
Well, I think everybody, in football, you can always use.
Never
more
have
help
enough,
up front.
man.
Yeah, you can't.
Well, you know what's funny? The Eagles, as much as everybody wants to talk about Jalen Hurts, we always talk about quarterbacks. The Eagles gave you the blueprint. Just kick the hell out of everybody on the line of scrimmage. That's what the Eagles did on both sides of the ball. They just beat you up on the line of scrimmage with their big fat guys were better than your big fat guys, and they just control. Look, I asked Patrick Mahomes. He's still running from Eagle pass rushers.
Yes. Ben Portnoy, Mike Yuba coming up, talking a lot of draft and CFP and who knows
Ben
what else.
Portnoy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, post-game show next.